Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us as we take a closer look at the Avengers Age of Ultron, otherwise known as let's make a smarter AI and put it in charge of all our best weapons. My name is John Newton, science fiction author, and I'm joined this morning for me and evening for him, joined by Jono from the Culture Crusader. Jono, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me on the show. My name is Jono. I go by the Culture Crusader on YouTube. I guess I'm a regular guy who just got sick of seeing all my favorite movies and franchises being destroyed by both bad writing, but also really subversive political messaging. And so I started doing reviews just to try to, I guess, fight back against that. I don't know if that's the right word, but push back against it at least and try to promote some good shows and call out the bad stuff. I guess I'm not like a professional writer, at least not yet. I hope to one day be, but I've always been interested in storytelling and I really like talking about it. I don't want to just be able to say like it's good or it's bad. I want to be able to explain why. So that's the main reason I do videos. If I can explain it, I can learn from it. So that's what I've been doing. And lately I've been doing The Acolyte, which is not a good show. But yeah, I guess that's a bit about me. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Sure, it's been good. We've had you on once before, and I think that we're looking forward to having you on in the future, depending on what kind of events or what topics come up, what movies come up in the future that you want to be able to review with us. So, we're taking a look at the Avengers: Age of Ultron, and what would you rate that on a scale from 1 to 10?
So I have it probably at about a 7 out of 10. I did put like maybe I could be pushed to a 7.5, but I think probably sitting on a 7 at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. I actually was at 7.5, and then I looked at this and I reviewed it more. There's some flaws, but I think overall there's some good things in here. I gave it an 8.
Yeah.
It just recently, it's like just one of those things. I don't know if we really can keep to a halves or not. So I talked with Jono before we got started. We're going to be doing something a little bit differently this time, and that is we're going to take a spoiler-filled theatrical review of this movie. Now, this has been out for a while, so we're just going to jump right into the spoiler part of this. And the way that we're going to do this chronologically, we're going to start from the beginning and work our way through. There was a book that has come out. Oh gosh, I don't remember how long ago. I don't remember when it was written, but it was recommended for authors to help them develop plots for stories. It's called Save the Cat. Why would you name it that? Well, it had to do with trying to have an event early on in the movie, like Pet the Dog. That's another term that's used, where you set something up for one of your characters to show themselves as being a good person, and so a Pet the Dog or a Save the Cat type of experience right off the bat. What this does is it sets up different beats for storytelling, and I'm going to use these beats as a guide as we walk through this movie, because it just so happens that these beats work well with Age of Ultron. So we're going to look first at, and this is an example of some of the beats that are given. 14 of them all together, for beginning to end. You've got 3 acts, and each of these go through like a catalyst midpoint and break into Act 3 and final resolution. And so the first one that we looked at for this movie was the opening image. The movie starts with an action-packed sequence where the Avengers are attacking the Hydra base. This sets the scene and tone for the film and introduces the team dynamics. You got the stuff going on like Cap saying, Tony Stark says a bad word, and Cap says language, and that becomes an inside joke with them throughout the rest of the movie. And Stark has his Iron Legion. These are basically the automated Iron Man, which it seems like it's a logical progression for his technology over these movies with Iron Man, that he has automated. You've seen it before. I think in Iron Man 3, he had automated Iron Man suits, but now he's using them more as Sentinels and voice activated. And this sets up what's coming later with Ultron. He's even a step up, a new version of one of those. So he sent those out to help these automated Iron Man suits to help protect the civilians. Another, I guess you say, another omen of things to come, because these are the protectors, and so is Ultron to be a protector. And then Tony has this nightmare from Scarlet Witch during this first episode, because they meet the other two that are going to be, actually one of them is going to become an Avenger, but they are enhanced. Is that the right term that they use for the twin?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they're calling them. Yeah.
From what I understand, in the comic book series, they were actual mutants. But because of Sony and Marvel, the whole copyright thing going back and forth with Spider-Man, all that kind of stuff that's happened, they couldn't really refer to them as being mutants. They were enhanced by Hydra. And so that's where they changed a little bit of the backstory. But during that nightmare sequence that Iron Man has, Captain America, all the Avengers are dead, and Captain America looks up at him and says, "You could have saved us. Why didn't you do more?" And this is the ghost that haunts Iron Man, or Tony Stark, throughout the story, and it gives him the motivation to do what he does, even though it's edgy and he knows it is, and he skirts around the law. So, John, what did you think about the opening scene for this? What was your thoughts about it?
Yeah. I thought it was good. I mean, I liked obviously the action. That's good. And you kind of mentioned the banter is there as well, the team dynamic with the whole like language thing. I think just in general, I think Joss Whedon is very good at writing banter between characters that is both enjoyable, but also it tells you something about the character. Like it tells you something about Cap, that he's still like that old fashioned like language, and then Stark making fun of him tells you something about him too. And all that. I think that that's one thing that shines all the way through the movie, I think, is their banter back and forth, but it's not just like generic insert any joke to any character. It's like each one makes sense for the character it came from.
Right.
So I really like that. And also about the opening scene, I think they set up Wanda and Pietro really well. Like this movie set them up to be pretty scary, honestly, especially Wanda. And Pietro's played off as a little bit of a joke at times, but like watching later movies when Wanda's a much more like normal human being, and then looking back at this, I was like, oh, wow, I've forgotten how much they set her up to be almost like bordering into like horror territory of like some really like creepy like witch who comes out of the shadows and messes with you and all that. So I thought that was really well set up. And yeah, as you mentioned, Tony Stark's motivations being set up right from the start with that dream was really well done, especially since in Avengers 1, he almost sacrificed his life flying up through the wormhole to take the nuke out into space. So he tried to save humanity by sacrificing himself just about. He succeeded, didn't die. And now he's seeing kind of a world, what would happen if he had failed? And that really motivates him. I really like that.
Right. Yeah. If he had, so this is something that's just haunting him more and more going through. And with Wanda, it's, you're right. There is a creepiness involved here. Like she does this thing with her fingers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they did something more with her makeup, the eyeshadow, and then coming out of the shadows like she did, just kind of creeping up onto something.
Even like there's a part where she, I think it's when she sees Cap, she like walks backwards in like a sped up like footage out through the door, and the door shuts in front of her. It's like, it's really weird, just like eerie kind of. Yeah.
It does give you the horror film kind of vibes.
Yeah, it almost looks like they may have like recorded it in reverse or played it in reverse after, like if she, like, I don't know, maybe she just walked in and they played it in reverse because it looks like unnatural somehow. Yeah.
Did they have any of that kind of stuff? I didn't see the Wanda series. Did they have it? Did you see that? Was that?
Yeah, I watched it. There's almost like kind of two versions of Wanda in that, because there's the one where she's like in this like fake world of like old American sitcoms kind of, and she's playing a part. And then there's the Wanda that like when people trying to pull her out of that, she starts getting like mean and like scary. She does kind of get back towards that dangerous and dark witch type vibe in it a bit. That show I don't think stuck the landing, but it was interesting for the first half or something like that. Yeah.
So it's kind of leaping forward a little bit with her character. We're talking about character development with this. And by the way, that's one of the reasons why I kind of downgraded this a bit, even though 8 is a high rating for this because of some of the themes I think that are brought forward with it. But one of the things I think was a negative was there are so many characters in this movie. There are these moving pieces. I don't know how you could have done it any better, but they're all main characters, and that's the strength of the Avengers. But I think it's also one of the weaknesses of it, because you can't focus on anyone in particular and show any particular character arc. There was a character arc with Tony. There was with Wanda, and maybe some of the other characters going on, but you really couldn't develop Wanda and her brother very well. I don't think.
Yeah, it was a bit rushed, eh? Like, it felt rushed just because, as you said, there's not enough time in the movie to focus enough attention on them specifically to really make the character arc feel fully justified, I reckon.
So the next beat that we'd be looking at in Save the Cat would be theme stated. This is the theme of the movie revolves around the dangers of ethical dilemmas of creating artificial intelligence and the pursuit of peace through questionable means. Tony Stark's fear of looming threat is highlighted earlier on. And so we see them get together. He and Banner in this scene are talking about, hey, this is what we could do, this shield. And he uses this phrase. He says, we don't have to, Banner comes back and says, I don't know, this is not a good thing. Remember, Banner is the product of an experiment gone wrong, the Hulk. And he's got mixed feelings about it because it does give him an advantage, but it's not controllable. So if Tony's going to be talking to anybody about taking risks and ending up with something that you can't control, this is the guy you talk to. But Tony talks him into it. He says, we have this possibility. This is a challenge. And he presents it to it from a technical and scientific standpoint. And Banner bites. He said, one of the arguments against Tony Banner gives is, listen, we should really do this in a debate, some kind of town hall thing. And Stark says, we don't have time for a town hall debate. I see a suit of armor around the world. Another thing that Tony's coming from is that he's put his life on the line, half a dozen times, and he's getting tired. This is, if he could have it automated, this guy loves automating things. If he could have it automated, he'd do it. And especially since he looked at the last threat and said, we barely got through this. We need to have something bigger and stronger. And that's the warning that I think we should all take from this too. So from this time in the movie, did you have anything that you wanted to pull out with this? This is, again, the theme stated. This is earlier on in the movie. We've done with the Hydra base, and we're moving on to setting up what's to come. They got the material from the Hydra base. They're investigating it. They're playing with it and say, here's something we could do.
Yeah. That line when Tony says, I see a suit of armor around the world, I only just remembered as you were talking about it when I think Banner's response is something like, it sounds like a cold world, Tony, which I love that line. It's a good line. Yeah. I also, I think it's very well justified, why Banner is able to be talked into it. Because as you said, you would almost think maybe he wouldn't, because he's already been the product of an experiment gone wrong. But there is that fact that he, I guess, as we see later when Wanda messes with his mind, his biggest fear seems to be losing control of the Hulk and doing an immense amount of damage and killing people and all that by accident. And so he would want the suit of armor around the world just like Tony, so that he doesn't have to risk it. He doesn't have to become Hulk to try to save the world and risk hurting people in the process. So I think that was very, very well set up there. I'm trying to think. I feel like there's something else. I liked Stark's line about, I don't want to hear the man was not meant to meddle medley. That was a good line. Even though it's I don't really agree with it. I liked it. It fit with Stark very well. Yeah. I don't know if I have anything else on that, but yeah.
Okay. So then the next beat would be the setup. And this is where you've stated your theme. And these don't always have to go in specific order, but you've stated your theme earlier on. This is the theme that's going to be carried on throughout the movie. Then you have the setup. What's going to happen? These are where the chess pieces get moved so that when the inciting event happens, the catalyst gets things going, things start clicking. And this is where the characters and their motives are introduced, including Tony Stark's desire to create a protective AI, and Bruce Banner's reluctance and the existing Avengers relationships. I say it's existing because there's a one that's going to be an addition, but they're showing the relationships between all these characters. And probably the thing that hits this the most is when these guys are doing their calculations to make the new AI, and they sit down afterwards, and it's the hammer scene. This is probably one of my favorite scenes when they're going through it. You know, I don't know how much the actors had fun with this one, but and they even hit this a little bit at the end of the movie too, where it's Tony, Thor, and Captain America are walking down the corridor, and they're saying, "Wait a minute, if the elevator lifts the hammers, is the elevator worthy?"
Yeah.
You know, all these questions are asked, right?
Yeah.
And so this is kind of a setup for that. And we see it come through a few more times. And I do want to let you know that I am at least a little worthy.
Nice.
So what were your, with this earlier part of the movie, do you have any insights on reflecting on this with the characters, and how would you, let me put this as a question to you, because I know you have some other material I want to introduce, but I'm going to pose this as a question. How would you set up the characters differently, or would you set them up pretty much the same way that they were in this movie?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess, how would I set them up differently? This might be jumping ahead a little bit, but when they start getting their visions from Wanda that like lead them to act a certain way they do, the main one that I would probably maybe have done differently is Captain America, with his vision of like his probably worst nightmare is kind of played off as if his worst nightmare is the war being over and him not having a water fight anymore. And I think that is believable. And I think probably there is a number of like veterans and warriors, soldiers who feel that way. But I don't feel like it was needed to justify Captain America's, resistance to the Ultron program. Like we've seen in Captain America 2 in whatever that one was called, the Winter Soldier, when Shield or Hydra, whatever it was, tried to create those helicarriers that could just target anyone who would be a threat in future. And Captain America opposed that. It was very similar to the Ultron program in the sense of like trying to automate something that probably shouldn't be automated. I think it would have been completely in Cap's character to oppose this without even having any kind of underlying motivation of like, oh, I don't want the war to end and I want to still be the hero. Because that's almost how that's kind of what I felt they were implying with his visions. I don't know if you got that from it, but it almost felt like his vision didn't really go anywhere hardly, but the impression I got was that he was even more against this because he didn't want to give up the reins and he didn't want to like hand it over to the AI because he almost enjoyed being like having a water fight. It gave him purpose. I don't know if that's what you saw.
No, I didn't. I really didn't. I didn't see where the fear was with his vision too much, but I think you're making a good point. There's probably one of the problems that you have with the character, that he would be looked at as like Superman.
Yeah, he's almost perfect.
Right. You don't have much of a character arc with him because there's not much of a character flaw.
Yeah.
I think there's a place for that character. I think
a place
you would want to hold up an ideal. But the Wanda plays off of fears a lot of times with regrets, right? That people, I should have. I failed. This is my failure. And with him, there really wasn't much of that.
Yeah.
You know, the only fear that he would have maybe is that he had poor leadership because he's leading the team.
Yeah.
So
I guess if she played off regrets, she maybe could have maybe worked something in with Bucky as well. If he like regrets what happened to Bucky, even though I guess how much does he know about Bucky at that point? He's come across him again in Winter Soldier, so yeah, he would have some idea, but he hasn't found him since Winter Soldier. So you could have played something like that. I don't really know how it would fit in with everything else. Maybe it wouldn't work. But
you know what? The only thing I would have done with that dream, I think, is I would have had maybe the one scene where he loses Bucky on the train and Bucky falls and he goes out the reach. That plays in his mind, and each time it replays, it's somebody else on the team.
Yeah. Although if it went that way, it would maybe almost push him towards supporting the Ultron program. It'd be kind of like the same dream Stark had. So it may not work because they'd both then be on the same side. Maybe, I don't know.
So the next thing the next beat is the catalyst, and this is where it's the inciting event. It's what gets things moving. So that's when Tony Stark and Bruce Banner do create Ultron using the Scepter's AI, leading to Ultron becoming a sentient hostile. And there's that one scene was really cool where you have a representation of Jarvis and Ultron as these two different colored AIs, amorphous, and one just takes over the other. Ultron takes over Jarvis, and so that was I thought that was a pretty cool scene. And then you have this guy show up, almost like he makes reference to him as being a puppet on strings, and he wants to have his strings cut like Pinocchio. So if you have comments about that, just chime in as you go through, because I just want to start shotgunning these, because we're on that's number 4.
Yeah,
we'll move on to number 5, unless you got something, because I'm going.
I guess the only thing I'd say on that is that I really like James Spader's performance as Ultron. He's so good. Like the voice, he plays the madness and the unpredictability so well. He's like creepy, but like kind of like enjoyable to watch. Like he's funny at times. I really like him.
Yeah,
I haven't read the comics. I feel like a lot of people from the comics, I don't think really felt like this was a very true Ultron depiction. But I haven't read the comics. I just watched the movie, and I really liked him.
Yeah. So that was one of the some of the complaints about the movie. I read some of the other critics on it, and you're right that they did. I didn't hear about the reference to the comics, but I did hear that people are saying he wasn't a scary enough villain. But I don't know. This is almost psychopathic.
Yeah, he's very unpredictable and suddenly goes off the deep end at like the smallest things, which makes him scary. Yeah.
Yeah. When he jumped up and said, somebody says, "Well, you just like Tony Stark." He says, "Tony Stark," and he just
cuts his arm off.
Arm off, right?
Yeah.
Chops Gollum's arm off. We're going a little ahead. So I forget that the actor is Tony Serkis. I think is
Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
He played that guy, and what a talk about a versatile actor.
Yeah.
All these different parts. But the voice of Ultron, what was the name of the actor again?
James Spader.
James Spader, thank you. The first time I had seen him was in Stargate as as Daniel in the original Stargate.
I haven't seen Stargate.
Yeah, when I didn't know until yesterday when I was doing the research for this that he was the one who did the voice for Ultron. So
yeah, I was kind of similar. Like I watched him in The Blacklist and really liked him in that, and then ages later found out he was Ultron. I was like, oh wow, like I didn't see that.
Yeah. So now we've got the debate, and this is another beat where it's it's reflected in the team's discussion and arguments about the creation of Ultron and the best course of action taken in response to the threat. And they get all together. They're looking at these pieces, and Ultron has taken off. He's taken the Spear of Destiny. He's like, oh, what are we going to do with this guy? This is nuts. We're in a really bad place. Tony, you blew it. And he's, going through his recriminations on all that. The next beat 6, break into 2. We get into the next act, and this is a transition that happens when Ultron attacks the Avengers and escapes, and he's off on his mission to evolve humanity through destruction. And he makes a statement that there's only one path to peace. It's the Avengers' extinction. And then we see the different side plots that are in here. This is a B story, the 7th beat. You have the dynamics of the Avenger teams themselves, who all is doing whatever. This is where all you have all these wheels and these cogs that are moving around, because you have all these main characters. And I think this is where the story loses a little bit, because it's very hard to try to keep all these plates spinning at the same time. But one thing we do see kind of stand out a little bit more that didn't really go any farther after this movie was the relationship between Bruce Banner and Scarlett Johansson.
Natasha Romanoff.
Thank you.
Romanoff, yeah.
Do you think that worked with those two characters?
Not really.
No?
It's probably one of my least favorite parts of the movie. I've seen a lot of people criticizing it just based on the fact that, like, I guess almost like the feminist idea that like, oh, the female character like doesn't need a man to be like to have a relevance or whatever, which I don't agree with that criticism of it. I just don't really think there was any chemistry there or any like it wasn't that well set up, and yeah, it went nowhere after this. It didn't feel like it felt like a half-hearted romance just like thrown in there for almost no reason. And I don't think either of the characters needed it really.
No, I think it didn't. I don't think it helped move the story along very well. It was just
Yeah,
like
no.
kind of meh. And I think you're right. It kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Romanoff is been she's kind of an assassin nun, you
Yeah,
know.
almost. Yeah.
So she's not going to have she has been so I don't know so much brainwashed or whatever's going on up there. I don't think she could trust her own feelings if she
Mm,
had any feelings left. She might just turn them
yeah.
all off. And then Bruce Banner's kind of the same thing. It says I got to watch what going on with my feelings. And I could see him going for her, especially when
Yeah.
she pulled him into the Avengers and everything, but
Yeah.
not so much. Yeah, you're right. I don't think
Yeah.
that was
It
really
felt like a kind of weak justification because she basically just said, "Oh, all my friends are fighters, but you run from fights because you know you'll win." And then therefore, I don't know why that leads to her being into him. Like, I don't know. It seems like not that good a justification to me.
I don't know. Maybe she likes a strong, green, angry type or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
So then fun and games is the eighth beat, and this section includes the action sequences and what we really come to see the movie for. Those type of scenes, seeing the Avengers in various battles and situations, the fight scenes with Ultron drones and so forth. So these are the kind of you got the Hulk. I mean, all right. This I didn't realize until we started looking into this a little bit more. There are, I don't know, you can count the number of arc reactors that are in here. He's got them in his shins. He's got them on his back. He's got them in
Oh, wow.
all the way around. I think there's 9 arc reactors altogether
Yeah.
that are
Right.
used to power this suit. And so there's all these fight sequences that are in there. Say, oh, that's great. Lots of fun watching all those. Do you think the action scenes worked in this movie?
Yeah, I think for the most part they did. I can't really think of any that I didn't like. I guess that motorbike scene is a little bit absurd, but then everything in Marvel's a little bit absurd, so it's probably okay. It fits fine. I liked the Hulk and Iron Man fight; that was really good. And yeah, the fight on that cargo ship was decent. It wasn't my favorite like Marvel fight, but I don't have any issues with it either.
Yeah. So the Hulk Iron Man fight there's a one point where he just like bang, he just hits him really hard, and then Hulk just looks at him. Tony says, "Sorry."
Yeah, yeah.
And it was cool with all that tech he had there.
Yeah.
Bring him down. So he'd really thought through. I'm going to try this on him. I'm going to try this on him. I'm going to try this on him. Basically, nothing really worked. Right? It just ended up not happening. So with Romanoff, a couple pieces of trivia about Scarlett Johansson was pregnant during this movie.
Oh yeah.
And they had, I think, 3 stunt doubles in there for her, and they did some CGI and the close shots and things like that to show, avoid the baby bump. And I guess the stunt doubles look so much like her that there was a scene where Chris Evans, who played Captain America, had gone up to a couple of them and started talking to them and then realized, no, this is not her. And the bike scene where she comes out of the is it this one? Yeah, where she comes out. That is an electric bike by Harley Davidson.
Right.
It was a prototype that they made, and then they put it on tour. So that was kind of a cool thing with that.
Yeah.
So now we hit the midpoint, and this is the middle point of the film, or if you're writing a story, it can be the same kind of earmark. Is you can see it by a significant shift when the Avengers face defeat in Johannesburg and are forced to go into hiding, leading to a moment of introspection and regrouping. They go to the safe house. This is Hawkeye's house, actually. And they just kind of split off. This is where Thor takes off and does his dream quest, which was a little bit odd.
Yeah. I wasn't a big fan of that.
Yeah.
The dream quest. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to the water spirits. Where in the heck did that come from?
Yeah, exactly. That was the other thing on the topic of the dream quest. I don't know why Thor's initial dream from Wanda included like footage of the Vision. Like, why did he see the AI that they would later create, when everyone else just saw their worst fears, Thor saw like his worst fears and the Infinity Stones and the Vision. It just seemed like they weirdly put that in there so that then he would somehow know to then go to the waters to recreate the dream and look at it closer and see the vision, and then like it felt a bit contrived to me.
Yeah, that didn't fit. I was a little taken out of the movie when that happened. Like, what's going on here? But you do have them all gathered together. Forgive me for the stretched, ultra tall characters here. It has to do with aspect ratio, and I didn't have time to clean up some of the images. So you have them together there. The next thing is the bad guys closes in. This is Ultron's plans intensify as he acquires vibranium and prepares to enact his final plan of human extinction, not just the Avengers extinction, human extinction. And the tension and stakes are raised. He uses the Sphere of Destiny, of course, to commandeer and to get everybody, well, just one particular scientist on his side. I forget her name. Ultron, this is where Ultron says human race will have every opportunity to improve. And Pietro says, and what if they don't? Ultron says, asks Noah. So, yeah, there are some of these scenes there that. So, do you think this was convincing? Was this good material here, where you have Ultron? It seems like he's one step ahead of him in everything he does.
Yeah, I guess I found it convincing that he would be conceivably one step ahead of them. I did find that convincing. His actual like motivations and all that, I guess I hadn't really thought that deeply into it. I could see a train of logic there that they would have followed to get him to like be against humans if he sees all the war and he sees all the humans killing each other and maybe destroying the planet.
We would destroy the Avengers, make a better world.
It will be better.
When everyone is dead.
That is not. The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
Sorry about that. I was just loading that up, and it just cut you off at the wrong time.
That's okay. Yeah, like I guess you could see how he might have, like the writers might have come to that point of view for the artificial intelligence, and then it works for a villain. I don't know that like his idea of like needing to evolve is necessarily the solution. It felt like his reason for being against humanity was, initially it seemed like it was because humanity's violent or destroying the planet or any of those kind of things. But then he suddenly wanted them to evolve to get better. I don't know. It felt like almost two contradictory motives. I only just thought of that then. I haven't fully thought that through, but it seems like it makes sense to me.
Yeah. There was it did, but I think it would also be keeping within his character if he's chaotic.
Yeah, true. He is very chaotic, so
I'm
maybe
going to help
make
you.
sense.
No, I don't. But it does make it difficult to have a villain who's chaotic like that, because you don't know where the story is going to go or what he's, what's going to happen next. I guess that's kind of a good thing there too. So this is their low point, and then they break into 3. They transition into Act 3. This happens when the Avengers come together, a renewed plan to stop Ultron, and leading it to the final showdown of Sokovia. The Scarlet Witch makes a comment here. Once they have this case, and they're going the casket that they're transforming, that they're creating Vision from, and she says Ultron can't tell the difference between saving the world and destroying it. Where do you think he gets that from?
Yeah, I don't really feel like that's a fair assessment of Tony Stark. Hey, like I understand that like he made some missteps along the way here, but it makes a huge a huge leap from Ultron to Tony Stark in their like worldviews. There's that line somewhere in it where Ultron says to Stark, "You're stalling to protect, like to buy time for the civilians," or something like that. And Stark's like, "Well, that is the mission. Did you forget?" So like they've very clearly got different views on things, even though Stark did create Ultron. So I didn't think it was at all fair from Wanda to do that. I understood why she would have seen it that way since like her circumstances.
Right.
I was kind of like, oh, that was not fair on Stark.
Well, yeah, but it is within her character and it's her background.
Yeah, it's within her character, so it's not a problem or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then later on, we have probably, I think, one of my favorite scenes, and that is when Vision appears, when he bursts forth out of the casket and has basically this crisis of identity going through, and you actually see him transform during this whole process as he's going through this. Who would you say is your favorite character in this movie?
I would probably say either Stark or Cap, for opposite reasons. Like Tony Stark has probably the best character arc in it, even though I don't agree with the choices he made in a lot of circumstances. He's probably the most interesting to watch, and also he's just so charismatic. But I really like Captain America too, because like he doesn't want to compromise. He doesn't want to like just accept the easy solution that might be dangerous or might have negative consequences. He's like, even if we lose, we'll do that together. Like I really like Cap standing by his morals. So those are my two favorites probably.
Okay, I think that's a really good assessment. But I want to throw a curveball in there, and I say, even though he did not get a whole lot of screen time in here, and he's not a theme of it, he's a product of this movie, and that would be Vision.
Yeah.
Just because of you have such a contrast between him and Ultron. Those are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And here is the scene where he first appears.
I am a monster. I don't think I'd know if I were one. I'm not what you are, and not what you intended. So there may be no way to make you trust me, but we need to go.
Yeah. And they did a great job of building this up. You know,
Yeah.
who is worth that one gesture that Vision may not even have been aware that is just over your equipment here. I'm going to hand this to you. Let's go out and do this. Was one thing that would have brought this disparate group together behind that character.
Yeah. I wonder if he was aware, because, you know, Ultron became aware of a lot very fast. I feel like all the stuff Ultron took in like a matter of seconds, I think Vision probably would have taken in the fact that the hammer was like a point of worthiness. But I don't know, maybe he didn't. It definitely looks like he just picks it up to hand it to him. Like it doesn't look like he's trying to do it as a big mighty gesture, but yeah.
Yeah, he might have. But then there's this one line.
True, he hates you the most.
So we know where Ultron is going with this, that there is the contrast between these. And now we set up the finale. This is the climax of the film that involves the Avengers battling Ultron and his army of Sokovia, culminating in the dramatic action preventing the city from crashing down to the earth, basically using this as an asteroid to wipe out life on Earth. There is... Do you think this made sense?
I mean, I think so. Like, I think it's plausible. As in, you mean like what, from like a physics perspective or from a motivation perspective?
Either.
Okay. I mean, I don't know enough about physics, but it seems plausible that a big enough thing from a high enough height, especially with the thruster things turning around to push it towards the ground fast enough, seems plausible it would do a lot of damage, if not extinction level. As far as motivations, I guess it's consistent with Ultron's motivations that we saw more towards the end of the film, but it doesn't seem consistent. As I talked about before, Ultron's motivations almost seem to change from when he first comes awake to later on when he starts this whole like asteroid plan.
Yeah. I would think that as from Ultron's point of view, his greatest strength is look what he did to the internet. Look what he did from technological AI point of view, not even just his body. So even though he's made several copies of himself or drone type of AI robots, his greatest strength is being able to get into the internet. With Jarvis gone, he could wreak havoc from that standpoint. I don't know if he'd be able to really wipe out humanity from that point of view, but he'd at least be able to cause a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like the amount of work it would require to fit all of those, whatever they were, like thrusters, repulsors, whatever they were, to lift the city. Like, I don't know when he even had time to do all that, even with all his robots working. That's a huge task. The other thing I was going to say that probably doesn't make sense is he had that, like, the core in the church in the middle of the city that he needed to, like, all his robots were trying to get to it to turn it to make the city fall.
Yeah.
And that was the whole, like, that's kind of the climax. They're all defending it. Why didn't he just make that remote activated? Like, it's so easy for all the other things that he's done. That would be the most simple thing to create.
All his androids or
yeah, exactly.
His drones are remote, right?
Yeah, but a switch was too hard for him.
Yeah, I think that would be a how it should have ended scene right there.
Yeah.
Just remote control the thing. So you that right here, you're talking about this scene where they're trying to save this, and there was kind of poetic. You have the church at the center, and it's where everybody's trying to get to, and you have these final battle scenes, and there was this iconic scene where you have Iron Man, Vision, and Thor, probably some of the strongest Avengers besides Hulk, coming out and just blasting him, and it was enough to finally take him down. So we have the final image. Then the movie ends in a new status quo for the Avengers, including introduction of new team members and a sense of both victory and ongoing need for vigilance against future threats. And you have this scene, like almost like sunset scene, where Vision and Ultron come together, and there's this quote. The Ultron says to Vision, "You're unbelievably naive." And Vision says, "Well, I was born yesterday."
Yeah.
So I thought that was fitting between the two.
Yeah, I really like that scene. I also really like the line from Vision where he says, "A thing isn't beautiful because it lasts." That's a really good line. And like I think a much better way of looking at humanity. Like, yeah, we're flawed, but like we're kind of special in our own ways, and you can't just like only look at the flaws and ignore all of the good like Ultron did. So I really liked that from Vision.
Yeah, good point. Thematic review. This is the best part of a review when we save it for last. We asked, are there Christian themes in this movie that can be used to deliver a message of instruction or hope to a dying world? Jono, what do you see, if any? Sometimes there aren't. But is there anything here that you see as a Christian theme that you would pull out to say, if I'm sitting down with somebody, we're watching this movie together, maybe they're Christian, maybe they're not, but I would want to introduce some concepts to them that they wouldn't necessarily know about. And here's a good analogy.
Yeah. I don't know how many good ones I have that are like a really, really like direct connection to Christianity. I have a few that I think are like moral moral issues that like it addresses that you can kind of tie back to some stories in the Bible, but maybe not like the main story of the Bible, I guess. One of them is kind of, I feel like the first half of the movie feels like the message is almost like, don't try to play God, don't mess with things beyond your control, that kind of thing, which it reminds me a little bit of the whole Tower of Babel story where humanity kind of got like too big for their boots and God scattered them to the wind and made them all speak different languages so they couldn't keep trying to challenge him. But then the second half of the movie kind of undermines that because the solution is also playing God and creating Vision. So like, I'm not too sure how well that one holds up. And the other one, this is, I guess, more of just a moral one that like I can't think specifically how it directly connects to Christianity, but I like Captain America's refusal to like compromise on his values. He I guess he kind of, in a way he does when he accepts Vision, but Vision's clearly very different. The point of like he says like, oh, we're going to face that together, and Stark says, what if we lose? And he says, well, then we'll do that together. The idea that Cap would rather lose than compromise on his beliefs and do something that he thinks is unethical and may have potential negative consequences down the line. I really like that message. I don't really know exactly how you tie that into the Bible, but yeah.
No, that's some good insight. I would say that there's a couple of things I see here. The first is not really so much a Christian theme, but it is a message in there that I think is universal and overall. And I usually don't do this, but I think it's worth asking, and this is the reason why. One of the reasons why I chose to do Age of Ultron right now. I would have rather have done like a series on the Avengers, even though it's older and people are kind of like, I've had Avenger fatigue, especially with what's happened to Marvel recently. It says I really don't want anything to do with it. But the question is, and this was in the thumbnail, can we trust AI? I think there are modern AI parallels here. How does Ultron's story relate to today's AI advancements? Do you think, and I'm going to pose that as a question to you, do you think there is any danger in the current development of AI today?
I think there's probably is a potential danger there. I guess I haven't been following it super closely. I've been following the AI art side of things, but that's very different to like Ultron. And the AI language model is, I guess, a bit closer. I've been vaguely, like, peripherally aware of that. I guess I haven't been following that super closely, but I would say from what I've heard in the current form, I don't think it's anywhere near as big a threat as a lot of people claim. But I also think that it could keep advancing. It's been advancing very fast. If it does keep advancing very fast, it may advance too quickly for us to realize that it is a big threat when it becomes one. So I think there's a possibility there for it to be a big threat, but I don't think it's there yet. And I would ultimately say it's also, I feel like it's all in God's hands. Like, I actually don't really know if I believe that we could create something that would send us all extinct unless that was part of his plan as well. I think we should still be smart and cautious, definitely, but I don't necessarily think that we're going to end the world with AI.
Okay. No, I think you brought some really good points. I think the more present danger from AI, and I think there's a lot of uses for it. It's a tool. It's a very powerful tool, and there's all sorts of applications it can be used for. Everything from just doing better web searches to creating speeches that you're going to give to medical diagnosis, to gather that information, collate it faster and better, just by using a large language learning module. That it's amazing how it can mimic intelligence. It's not self-aware. It doesn't really know. It's just really, really good at pattern recognition. And the patterns it uses and works with is language. And so at least some of the models that we have for AI now that might change over time. And talking about if you're using it for art, like Midjourney or something like that, then that's something that's different. But I'm talking about on the language side. But the problem here is this: the danger is it is a powerful tool, and just like all tools, it can be misused. And we can start relying on it too much. I don't think we're at the point where you're going to have an Ultron take Sokovia and slam it into the earth. I don't think that's the danger at all. I don't think it's going to be like iRobot, where you have this AI that subjugates everybody. A very similar theme to what we just saw here. Subjugates everybody because it cannot trust humanity. It knows better. But I think there is that built-in hubris in AIs that we could give to it. We could give AI our birthrights, in that we're not doing the thinking as much anymore, but we're allowing it to do the thinking for us because it's so easy. It's so easy to lean on that. If you look at the changes in our culture because of the internet over the last 20, 25, 30, 35 years now, because of the internet, unforeseen consequences or unintended consequences of cell phones, of smartphones, of using these devices and not knowing that we were going to have a generation of kids who's glued here. What kind of unforeseen consequences are there going to be on the social side for having AI involved in everything? And here's the thing that I think is really dangerous with it, not just on reliance and over-reliance, but also who is making and creating the safety guards here? on AI. I did a video a while back where I was asking AI ChatGPT live some questions, and this is the voice version of it, asking it some questions about Christianity and Islam, and it got onto Islam and said, "Oh, you can't say those things about Islam. You can say those things, blasphemous things or whatever, about Christianity, but you can't say that about Islam." And I'm thinking, okay, this is not just what they did. The Chat GPT has had to go out and search the internet and get pattern recognition for all the data that's out there. Billions upon billions upon billions of phrases and lines of code. But then they put safeguards. They put rules around it. They made it, and they should. But the question is, who is writing those safeguards? Because those people that wrote it said, okay, it's okay to say these things about Christianity, but you can't say that about Islam. I say, we got to be consistent. If you can't say that about one, you can't say that about the other, or vice versa. But those things I think are dangerous. And as we rely on it to write speeches for us or write policy, you got to believe that some people in legislators, are having AI write some of the laws because it's easier for them. It's available. They don't have the time. They're understaffed, right? And they're behind the deadline. They need to get it out now. So I think that's probably where there's the biggest issue. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I had a note here that I had forgotten about where I'd written, I wouldn't want to trust AI with my safety because I don't even trust the government as it is. Like even if AI, even if AI is fine now, like who controls it? Who does it answer to? Even if it does answer to someone who is decent now, like it could end up being that organization or whoever controls it could end up being infiltrated, like so many organizations have been. And so it could be weaponized against us in the future or in any way. Like that would apply to an AI of the level of Ultron, or as you said, just the language learning models. Like, you can ask certain questions, you can't ask other questions. It'll berate you if you ask certain questions, all that. Like, I think there's definitely a big issue there. I don't really know how you solve it. Like, how do you determine who controls it? I guess then you go back to it's the same issue as government. Like, how do you determine who does your laws and all that?
That's true.
Like, we've got systems in place and they kind of work, but like,
tyranny creeps in at the same level as it gets farther away from us. It's directly proportional to the distance from the voter, and that distance from the voter can be either I'm one of 300 million voting versus one of 10,000 voting. I have a local representative that I can go out to lunch with. It's here in town, local politics, versus somebody 3,000 miles away who is inundated by lobbyists and making all sorts of compromises now that I no longer have any kind of real say in what's going on. That the individual citizen then is taken out of it. It could easily be done with AI. It's just another level there that's there. So I think we need to be very careful with this. Very powerful tool, just like the internet, very powerful. But
the other
just
thing,
like all
even
tools can be misused.
Yeah, even with the AI, like art and image generation, video generation, another unintended consequence of that is I almost don't believe anything I see anymore because you just don't know if it's been faked. And of course, there was ways to fake things previous to AI, but it seems like it's a lot easier to do it now, and like pretty convincingly in a lot of cases. Obviously, sometimes there's still the hand with like 7 fingers or something like that on it, like that'll give it away, but it's not always the case, and it's only going to get better. So there's that danger too. Yeah,
absolutely. There was a time back when I was a kid where if you had a photograph of something, it would show proof. Then Photoshop came around, and other not just Photoshop, but other image altering programs. So you can't trust photos anymore. But you're right. You'll eventually get to the point where you can't trust the voice, or videos themselves because they can be altered.
Yeah.
So, there's another thing so I actually do have a Christian theme here, and this is a comparison for it. And I got to go through this really fast. There's so much information, and we've already taken a long time with this. But I do want to share this because I think it's interesting. So I'm going to go rapid fire through this as fast as I can. And that is I'm going to take our images out of this, just show you directly. This is showing attributes of Vision and Ultron. So I'm going to compare the two real quick to see there's an opportunity here to show compare the two, because one is a good AI, the other is a bad AI, and the good AI wins out on this. If we had an AI like Vision, I'd say cool. But chances are, if we had a super intelligent AI, it'd probably end up to be something like Ultron, just because Murphy's Law. And so comparing the two of them then, and let's see if I can do this. All right, so view of humanity. They have Vision believes in inherent worth and potential for good, where Ultron sees humanity as inherently flawed and destructive. Faith and redemption Vision believes humanity can learn and improve, where Ultron believes humanity must be destroyed in a new order. And the role they play, Vision is the protector and guide, Ultron is self-appointed judge and executioner. Motivation. Vision helps and protects humanity, where Ultron created a better world through destruction. That's where his motivation is. It's like, I got to get rid of this. You guys are not worthy. There's the Noah quote that was given. Actions. Vision acts with humility and wisdom. Ultron with pride and arrogance. And view on peace and order. Vision believes in peace through protection and growth. Ultron believes peace through destruction and rebirth. Ethical approach. Values individuals and moral actions. And Ultron is utilitarian. Ends justify the means, even if they are destructive. So that is a comparison between the two. But do you see any similar? Let's say, well, what about your Christian themes? Jono, I'm glad you asked. What about the Christian themes? So let's take a look at that. You've got, here we take Vision. We're going to compare him to God, Yahweh. This is the biblical God, the God of the Bible. And view of humanity. He created humans in his own image and sees inherent value. Now, of course, Vision is not omnipotent. He is not. I'm not saying he's God, but there are some similarities here between the two in a very limited way. Faith and redemption. Yahweh offers redemption and forgiveness through Jesus Christ. And the role, he's creator, protector, shepherd, and self-sacrificed on the cross. Motivation, love, grace, redemption for humanity. Actions, he demonstrates love, wisdom, and humility. So we've got a much better version. If you like Vision as a character, we've got a better version. And this is something you're sitting down watching this with somebody, say, hey, you like Vision? I got something for you. Hold my beer. Yeah, that's a very Christian thing to say, right? Hold my beer. View on peace and order, true peace through relationship with God, and values righteousness, justice, and mercy. So you see the comparison between the two. What about Ultron? Comparison to the devil, and views humanity as corrupt and needs to lead them astray. Condemns and seeks to exploit human sinfulness. He's the accuser and the adversary. His motivation is pride, rebellion, and opposition to God. Actions demonstrates pride and deception. So there's pride and arrogance for Ultron. We see it also with the devil. So these are archetypes, right? They used to create this movie. They created archetypes. And view on peace and order. He seeks chaos and disorder. And sort of like that with Ultron. Ultron is saying, yeah, maybe, it all settles down eventually in the earth and we'll have metal men walking around and everything's going to be at this utopia. And it's an ethical approach. He exploits and corrupts for personal gain or personal pride, I think what it was. And I'm missing that. So that is the Christian theme that I pulled out for this one. Dun, 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 for what it's worth.
Yeah.
So, and I'm looking for comments. We have, so when you get down to it, We see a good example of God's benevolence and forbearance for humanity in the destruction that the enemy wants to bring. We see that contrast between the two. When it comes to AI, I mean, true AI, the most we can hope for is something that reflects the best within us, maybe something like vision. But we should be prepared for the worst if it does happen. Do I think this is the cataclysm that's going to be the end of the world? No. But I think that we need to be presently aware of the misuse of this powerful tool. So, Jono, where can people find you? And do you have anything coming up that you want to share or promote at all for your channel?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'm just the Culture Crusader on YouTube. I don't really have anywhere else. I guess I'm the Culture Crusader on Twitter as well, but I don't really do much there. So I've just recently reviewed The Acolyte episode 7. I've been going through that show all the way from the start to finish. And yeah, watched the latest episode, which is the finale last night. So I'll be doing a review in the next week or so. So I guess, yeah, if anyone's interested, they can come check that out. After that, I'll probably be trying to review the latest Rippaverse comic book. It's called Yara. So I'll be doing that probably after the Acolyte review, and beyond that, I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give you a little promo here too. Your review on the Acolyte. Hats off to you. I don't know if you're wearing particular plot armor to be able to get in there yourself, but once I hit that 3rd episode, I said I'm done with my review. I've seen enough. But you have lasted all the way through. And I don't know if you need to take a shower afterwards or not, but you did a good job.
Yeah. Honestly, there was a bit there for a while where I was like, this is like, it's so bad it's funny. So I was kind of enjoying it. But by like the last couple of episodes I watched, I was like, I'm so sick of this. It's just depressing. I just want it to end. Like, I was so tired of this show. But yeah, we're getting there.
So I do have a comment here I want to bring up from the chat. And this is from Andrew Martin. He said, Vision is more like an AI Jesus. Well, yeah, definitely with some of the attributes that are there. And I think that's very noble, humble, and the good guy you want to have on your side. I'd definitely say that. And we won't talk about Civil War yet. That's coming up. So as for me, I do have a short story out this month. That's A Taste of Earth. You can find it on Amazon or any of your best favorite book distributors. It's on Apple, Barnes & Noble, Kubo, and so forth. It is all the distributors. If you do get it, I would ask right now, you can grab it for free for a limited time. And I do ask that if you do pick it up, that you'd leave a comment, review, everything for that would be helpful. And coming up on this channel, we have next week. Oh, sorry, that's out of order. We have on next Tuesday, we're going to have an after party review of War of the Worlds. This is a viewer choice. This came out on top for 4 different possible movies that we could review. War of the Worlds with an after party review. Please get a chance to see it if you haven't, and chime in on the comments when we do our after party review. I'm basically looking for you guys to help me give Christian themes on these movies. And then next Thursday, we're looking at a controversial issue. Born with a Desire. If I'm born this way, born anyway, does that mean I can do what I want with my desire? So until then, I appreciate I appreciate having Jono here with me, giving me a lot of feedback. And so, yeah, it definitely it's really cool having this different perspective from his side, and to say that, hey, here's another author looking at this from a literary standpoint or a theatrical and critical standpoint to go through these movies. Even though it's a little bit older, there are some themes here that I think that are relevant for today. So until next time, hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday.